Good morning and welcome to the TCPalm editorial board meeting to interview candidates in the election for Indian River County Commission, District 4. I'm Larry Reisman, columnist and community editor, and I'm joined by fellow editorial board members Adam Neal, our editor and news director, Blake Fontenay and Ed Keller, who are our columnists, and Louise Philippine, a reader advisory board member. Special thanks to our guest today for meeting with us and streamlining this process by completing questionnaires ahead of time. Board members have reviewed them. As at the beginning of this meeting, we're short one candidate. We did invite Joann Binford, who did return her questionnaire. She's not on right now. She has been invited, and I believe she said she was going to be here, but we haven't seen her yet. Questionnaires and replays of our editorial board interviews can be found at tcpalm.com/elections. At the conclusion of this interview, editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in this race. I'll lead the questioning and open it up to other editorial board members at the end. We might end up having more of a conversation than just a simple Q&A. Our goal is to be completed in 45 minutes based upon the presence of two candidates. If not, we may have to go a little bit longer. But because of our time constraints, we ask that both candidates keep their answers concise. So we'll get started. We'll start the first question with Deryl. Can you tell me succinctly, what are the three biggest issues the county faces right now?
Yes, sir, and thank you, and thank to the editorial board for inviting us, and thank for Mr. Lowther to join us as well. In 47 days, this race will be determined. But to start with your questions, number one, first and foremost, I think most people know my background. In a normal civilization, you have to have public safety, fire, and law enforcement as your base. That's where we have to begin by triaging everything. We've got to have Vero Beach, Indian River County to be a safe place to make us happy and allowed to go out and perform our commerce and other things. That's number one. Number two, and as I sent my editorial response in a few weeks ago, Mr. Reisman, is obviously the economy. It's clear that we are in an inflationary time right now. The history predicts in 12 to 14 months. Actually, this year, it looks like it's going to be a little closer. But my fear is that there's a recession coming. We already know what prices are right now for our commodities and our fuel. We don't even have to talk about that. But that's one thing as a county commissioner, as a leader, that you have to keep in mind. Now, there's a lot of other, obviously, some challenging issues ahead, but we know this inflationary time and the recessionary time won't last forever. So in the meantime, you have to have a leader that has been there and done that through the 08, 9, 10, 11, and 12 inflation time and recession to lead the county in that direction in somewhat a reasonable and a conservative fashion. Number three, of course, is the housing market. We've got to work together with the county. Just Tuesday, they passed a review of accessory housing. That's a start. Of course, we've got our SHIP program in place, which is the State Housing Initiative program. Unfortunately, there's only like $350,000 allocated to that through the county, through the state to the county. So we've got to work together on the affordable housing issue, because what is affordable housing? Folks think they can build a house for $200,000 or $300,000. When we look at the price of materials, that's just not the case. So under my leadership with the county commission and the county administrator, we're going to look at that from a higher level. How do we get our partnerships in so we can sustain affordable housing in Indian River County? Because at the end of the day, we could make wrong decisions and we could have flight happen. We don't think that's going to happen here because of our base. We have 165,000 residents. So those are my top three right there, Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Deryl. We'll go on to, thank you, Ms. Binford, for joining us. We'll go with Mr. Lowther to answer the first question, which you can think about, Ms. Binford, which is what are the top three issues facing the county? So, Mr. Lowther.
Thank you, Larry. And I too, like Deryl, want to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to be able to voice to the people out there to be able to see this and read this. And he's absolutely right. This is a position that you definitely need to have experience in. and I think I'm one of the candidates that can hit the ground running right from day one, because I am a former county commissioner. And my three, I think my three issues pertaining to this county, not necessarily in the order, and I'm not going to call it affordable housing. I'm going to call it workforce housing. And this is kind of the same thing we just did with the Chamber of Commerce here a couple weeks ago with an interview they had. And with workforce housing, you can have and try to supply and try to hire all the firemen, the police officers, the sheriff's deputies. And if they can't afford to live here, that's an issue. I can tell you now, there is a development coming up over on the horizon that's going to be coming in through Fellsmere that is going to be composed of townhomes, which are going to start in the neighborhood of 200,000, and then homes start in the neighborhood of 250,000, which to me, that is workforce housing. And I think as a city commissioner, you do have to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to move forward, work with developers, try to work on a plan that everyone can benefit from. Now, my second issue would probably be, more importantly, the urban service boundary. That has been a buzzword, for the last 20 years that I think Indian River County has a vision, but they really haven't moved on it. I have to sit here and tell you, 43rd Avenue and 60, I have to laugh when I go through there, because Larry, you probably remember this, and Adam, you do too. I actually was one of the commissioners that voted on widening that intersection back in 2004. So it's just now getting done. So, more important than having the vision, you have to do it. And with the urban service boundary, we have about 34,000 home sites that are in what they classify as a donut hole. I truly believe that these need to be filled in, begin to move the urban service boundary in increments, and have a vision. And number three, probably the most important to me as well, is back when I had the opportunity of being chairman of the board on the county commission in 2005. I was commissioner during my time, the 4 years of being on there, was the only commissioner where we met with St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners, Martin County Board of County Commissioners, Brevard County Board of County Commissioners, Fellsmere City Council, Sebastian City Council, and the City of Vero Beach. I truly believe that conduit and that bridge needs to be built back, especially with the City of Vero Beach right now. You all, you know that because you're in the press. You realize there's issues, I guess, are beginning to happen and spur up between the City of Sebastian and the City of Vero Beach, and the county has to take some ears to that. You have to be a commissioner that can take a lead, take a charge, and move forward with that. So those are my three.
Thank you, Tom. Ms. Binford?
Ask that question again, please.
I'm sorry. What are the three most important issues facing the county right now?
Well, we definitely have a housing issue, but with the housing issue, we also have a skilled labor force issue. And I think all of those work together, because without a skilled labor force and skilled trade, you don't have equitable income to afford housing. I like the SHIP program and how it works. It helps people. It's a leg up. People can get into the SHIP program. It helps them put like a $10,000 down payment and then $10,000 towards repairs of the home. And then when the interest rates go low, they can refinance it and they can get off the SHIP program and return that money back to the county. So those kind of programs are definitely helpful to the housing industry and people getting into housing. But most importantly, I'm really concerned about our economy. I've been living here for close to 20 years, and we really haven't focused on bringing manufacturing here and bringing jobs that offer skilled labor. And also with our school district, they've taken out all of the skilled trades. So as a county commissioner, I want to bring these subjects up and talk about them and work collaboratively with all the municipalities and have a real serious talk, because we have a heritage here and the demographics is changing. There's a lot of retirees here still that have a comfortable income. Some of them have a certain budget that they have to work on and live on, and they've bought their houses many, many years ago. But we've got younger people here now that are having to face the increase of housing without the job market to sustain the way of life that they need to do. And if we could work collaboratively with the schools, bring the shop classes back. I've met some contractors here that have great skilled trade labor programs that need to get out there. We need to let people know that they have them so that we can get people working and they have tier levels. So I would like to focus on those issues: housing, the labor force, and economically bringing jobs here. We keep talking about the urban service boundary and building more houses that people can't afford. And where's the job market? You know, we have a great landscape here of smaller businesses, but that urban service boundary out west is a great place to put industry. And that's where I'm at.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Lowther on this one. Indian River County spent $3 million of the public's money fighting to stop Brightline before settling its lawsuit with the company. As a commissioner, I'd just like to get your perspective on Brightline. Number one, how will you hold them accountable for what they agreed to do in the settlement? And then secondly, do you think that Indian River County should have a train stop?
Well, great question. And truthfully, I think that figure might have been closer to 4 million as opposed to 3 million. And, a lot of people don't understand with Florida East Coast Railway that runs through here, they have total control and total command of where their railroad stops are, and obviously maintain that, control it, and tell you how they're going to do it. If you remember right back down around 71st, when I think a cement company came in there, they ended up closing one of them, moving it elsewhere to abide by the FEC. I can tell you that to answer the second question, to hold their feet to the fire, first of all, that's pretty much a federal government issue that the Brightline had when they were starting this endeavor. It was a done deal from the federal level, from the top coming down. And as a sitting commissioner, if I was sitting there, I can truly tell you, I would have not been in favor of using taxpayers' money to do something that wasn't going to win in the end. I would have been a strong proponent on the other side, trying to have a nice train stop here for Brightline to make that happen. And I think you saw Martin County back off their lawsuit first. Brightline is beginning to look at maybe entertaining a place for Martin County. And I still wouldn't say that that's a done deal with Indian River County, because I think there's some pretty good locations here to make that happen.
Thank you. Ms. Binford?
Yeah, the Brightline issue. That was one of those issues where I had a change. It changed my mind. The Brightline change was definitely a mind changer for me, because at first I was receptive because I thought the train would stop here. And the train stopping here, some people were against that. But when you think about it, our smaller businesses and medical facilities would get more clientele and service from other county residents. We have some really good doctors and really good businesses here and restaurants that people would love to frequent. And that would have been a plus for us. But I changed my mind when I learned we weren't getting a stop. I also thought the train was going to pay for all of the safety upgrades at the time. And FDOT's paying $10 million, Brightline's paying $10 million, and they're actually looking to apply for $25 million in federal grants to cover the balance and safety upgrades. So, I think Indian River County could benefit from a stop. Plus, it would also slow down the train. I'm really concerned about the future to see what these safety upgrades are. A lot of us don't really know what the safety upgrades are going to be at those train crossings. And with our kids crossing from the high school down towards the beach side, they do a lot of foot walking sometimes, or just to go to training camps. I know they had rowing on the other side. I don't know if they all drive there, but sometimes I would see kids walking to their rowing practice, and they have to cross those tracks. And you know how kids are, they're looking at their phone, they're texting, even if their head's up, they're not really focused on everything around them. So it has a little bit of concern for me.
Thank you. Mr. Loar?
Yes, sir. And thank you. Obviously, I was the sheriff when these negotiations began. Even when there was chatter and whisper about Brightline coming, initially we saw who the primary funder of Brightline was. I was hesitant the entire time as the sitting sheriff, knowing that I'm competing with dollars for a lawsuit that I predicted the train is coming. In fact, I've got one of my best friends is the train director in the Fort Pierce FEC yard, and I visit with him often. And somebody that works on the railroad says it's coming. There's nothing you can do about it. So I knew that, and I watched all the banner going on for many, many years. And I think Mr. Lowther's right. Actually, it's closer to $5 million that the county spent. Now, having said that, a lot of litigation, outside lawyers instead of in-house lawyers, which that's fine. There's a time and a place for external attorneys. But that being said, that case has been settled. In fact, it was appealed and settled again. All the while, I was the sheriff thinking, there's another million, there's another million. And think about what those millions of dollars could have done for things like affordable housing and the like. But at the end of the day, the concessions were made. And part of the stipulation of the lawsuit is that those major improvements are going to be made. I believe there's 27 crossings in our county, and they're already working, obviously, on the north end and on the south end, right down here. So as a sitting county commissioner, we have litigation that has been resolved. In other words, I think the question was, would I hold their feet to the fire? Of course, you've got standing litigation that's been solved that a private sector company has responsibility to uphold what the judge has ruled. So again, I think we've seen some models down south of the crossings. I'm sure that they won't be as reckless as we think. It's going to be an educational program for all of our residents and our tourists that come here, knowing that a high-speed train is going through here. I don't believe it's 100 miles an hour. I think it's going to be more around 70, which obviously is too fast. But listen, that horse has left the barn. Now, as the county commission, with the power that we have, albeit limited versus the state and the federal government, but we still can be the squeaky wheel that makes sure our community is safe. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next question. Ms. Binford, you've all mentioned workforce housing, affordable housing as an issue. What specifically would you do to ensure that this problem is addressed or resolved?
As far as workforce housing, like I said, the best way to resolve this is to start working on our economy and our skilled labor trade and doing better at attracting large businesses here. We have so many obstacles that businesses have to jump that they've actually left Indian River County. We have our own residents that are starting businesses over the border because of all the red tape and all the obstacles that they have to jump over that are costing them thousands of dollars to start a business. If we don't get that under control and we don't focus on building a labor force, we're going to continue to have this issue because housing costs. And as we move into the future and as people keep moving here, housing values are going to continue to increase. And if we don't work on the economic base, we don't work on the skilled trade labor, we're going to find ourselves here. And whatever solution you're trying to solve, you're not going to be able to battle it because inflation keeps rising. So we have to focus on how we're going to make the people have the opportunity, give the people the opportunity for skilled labor, skilled trade to grow, manufacturing. We have to have these options, or we're just going to turn, unless you just want this to be a retirement village, because families need to survive and kids in schools need to get shop classes again. They need to go to high school and know they can take VOTEC classes. And these companies want to see this happen. These trades want to see this happen. They want to have a skilled labor force where they can climb the ladder and earn a better living. And we can build all the housing. We could talk about making affordable housing. I don't even know what you guys are considering affordable housing. Affordable housing is nowhere in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Affordable housing today would probably be around $150,000, but you still need to be making $60,000 a year even to live in that, to pay a mortgage. So we really need to focus on economic opportunities and building our skilled labor force.
Thank you. I think we'll go to Mr. Loar next.
Thank you. As Americans and Floridians and Indian River County residents, we've been around long enough to see how this thing ebbs and flows, talking about recession. We know that during the boom many years ago, 04, 05, house market was going up like a rocket. And then about 2008, when the recession hit, again, things kind of settled down and homes settled down, and you saw people buying a lot of rental homes. And now this is a bubble that we're in. I truly believe that the feds are working. Just 3 weeks ago, they increased the rate by 0.75 of a point. That's expected to go again in about 3 weeks. They're going to raise it again. So that is how a mechanism that they're going to bring things down. So inflation is simply what it means: inflated prices. So, and that goes from building homes and everything else. So of the 165,000 residents that we have in this county, 90,000 of them are retired. That leaves 75,000 in the workforce. Well, simply put, we do have some manufacturing here. They are very productive. Our chamber is continuously acting in good faith by advertising and getting out and attempting to draw manufacturers in. The other thing is, obviously, in November of 2020, the state voted on raising the minimum wage. Today it's $10. In November it's going to be $11, and by 2024 it should be at $15. Now, $15 an hour, even if you're living with several people, you still can't afford a $150,000, $180,000 house. I predict the housing market is going to slow. I think you're going to see our builders. We have a supply problem with our houses right now. They can't simply build them quick enough. All of this is related, unfortunately, to the pandemic. In March of 2020, when our friends in the Northeast had the COVID worse than we did, and they did not have the state of Florida leadership that we do, very proactive. So what happens is we have 985 people a day moving to Florida. In fact, in our last census, we went up from 2010 to 2020. We went up 27,000 people in our county. But most important about that is from year 18 and 19, the last 2 years of that census, our population increased 7,300 residents. So if you do the math, that's over 30% of that 10-year spectrum that they came in 18 and 19. And then when the 2020 census was taken amidst COVID, we come up with 165,000. I venture to say that it's probably closer to 175, maybe even 180,000. So we see that trend going. So to answer your question, and we've talked about some call it urban service boundary, others call it the USA, the urban service area. It's probably important to know that urban service boundary line was created in 1985. So 1985, ironically, the year I graduated high school, and that boundary has not been moved. Now, some say a solution would be to move it. However, keep in mind that when you move the urban service boundary line, it simply adds another expense on the county for providing the infrastructure, the utilities, the fire, the law enforcement, and all of that. And I understand impact fees, and I get that you have to pay to play. In other words, you have to pay to build affordable housing, if you want to call it that. But at the end of the day, until our information and our tools and what we need to build a house, you can't buy a sheet of plywood right now for less than $40. So I'm confident, and I know that this is just a trend we're in right now. And with the leadership of the county that's already proven itself, in the leadership that I am going to bring to the table, with leading a 544-man Indian River County Sheriff's Office through a recession, yes, you make some sacrifices. There's no doubt about it. We stayed away from furloughs. We stayed away from buying any capital improvement, all of those stuff. So the leadership that I'm going to take is proven experience that simply lets our friends know that you've got a strong county commission that has weathered storms before, literally storms before. So we're going to get through that. And again, we're going to work in concert, not just the county, but we've got to think outside the box. Let's get our bankers involved. Can we extend mortgages? Can we, although the SHIP program only was funded $350,000 last year, and there's only 30 participants in the SHIP program last year in the county, which 30 homes is nothing really to sneeze at. And Habitat actually only built 14 houses last year, and that's all because of the inflation that we're in. Habitat does a fantastic job, but everything is relative when you start talking about building things. And we may have to look at multi-families living in larger homes together and splitting the cost. But I do think this will settle.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lowther, I want to give you an opportunity to answer the question.
What was the question?
The question was, what specifically would you do to help ensure the that there people have an affordable place to live? You talked about that earlier.
Yeah, and that is a great question. And first and foremost, I want to throw out there, I think I'm probably the only candidate that can truly tell you I'm a fourth generation Indian River County resident. So I've definitely seen a lot of changes coming in Indian River County. And I think to answer your question direct, Larry, with what and I've mentioned this in candidate forums that we've had before, I would love to be able to sit down with Habitat for Humanity because they have a great plan of what they're doing and utilizing for the affordable housing market. And as I said earlier, I would love to sit down with some of these big developers and begin to talk to them as to what we would do for workforce housing. And I want to throw out there to all of you all, would you realize, and again, being a fourth generation Indian River County resident here, I've said this in a candidate forum before, Indian River County has always been a retirement community. My grandmother owned a clothing store over on the beach side from the 50s to the 80s, and she could tell you that as well. People move here to retire. They don't move here to find a job. I'm not saying that's not the thing to do, and I think I can truly tell you, out of my other two candidates, I'm the only one that's a private business owner. So I know the minimum wage. I know what it takes to make the payroll. I know what it takes to have employees here that can work and live. But to answer your question directly, definitely sit down with Habitat for Humanity, sit down with developers, see what you can do, develop a plan. You're only one of 5 commissioners, but I have that desire to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go with Mr. Loar on this next question. And this gets back to the pandemic a little bit, but as we look ahead, maybe there's something else that comes up. Under what circumstances, if any, would you be willing to mandate masks in Indian River County? And we'd ask that your answers be concise.
Well, thank you. I would not mandate masks. That's proven, and that's why the state of Florida is thriving.
Thank you, Mr. Lowther.
Ditto that. I can tell you again, out of the 2 candidates, and probably out of all of you all there, I'm the only candidate that had to deal with this pandemic directly. I mean, you talk about first responders, we're there. And I didn't get, I had families when they would come in, and let me tell you, we're still in deal with COVID. Got COVID yesterday from the hospital. But I don't have a mask mandate in my funeral home. It's up to families when they come in, if they want to wear it. That's up to them. And I leave it at that.
Ms. Binford?
Well, I'm a constitutional conservative, and the Constitution protects our liberties. So I would not vote for mask mandates.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Lowther for the next question. Can you tell me when was the last time you changed your mind on a political issue? Please explain when and what it was and how it happened.
Well, I could. That's easy. Ms. Binford could probably tell you. We had our very first candidate forum. I think it was maybe her club that put it on, and the questions were out there. Not all of us had the questions, but it came up about the red flag question, which I can tell you, being a commissioner, county commissioner for 4 years, Larry, red flag never came up. I am a pro Second Amendment constitutional carry, concealed weapon, proud of it. But it had come up from the standpoint of when that question was arisen, I had a former sheriff and Commissioner Joe Flesher stated he was in favor of the red flag. You have former sheriff, county and candidate Deryl Loar stated he was in favor of the red flag. And I've got 2 deputies, 2 former police officers here that were in favor of that. I think my response to that question was, this will never reach the county commission level. We are a second sanctuary county, which means the sheriff will not come in and take any weapons from these people that need to have them taken. So I wouldn't necessarily say I changed my mind. I never really got involved from the standpoint of how that question was. And that was the last time it happened, was probably about 2 months ago.
So are you saying that you changed your mind in favor and being in favor of a red flag law or against it?
Is looking at the standpoint of the red flag. Absolutely. I'm in favor of whoever has their guns. That's a constitutional right to carry that gun. So I can tell you I'm not in favor of the red flag. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Binford, when was the last time that you changed your mind on a political issue?
Well, it definitely wasn't on a constitutional liberty. It was on, as I mentioned earlier, it was the Brightline train that was a mind changer for me, because I stepped into that thinking that we were getting a stop. I wasn't crazy about all the money we were spending on the lawsuit. I was trying to see the pluses and minuses, and that's how I look at things. What are the pluses and what are the minuses? And try to make reasonable and rational decisions on that for the best of the county. And I thought it would have been a great idea to have a stop here because it would benefit the county. We need to bring money into this county. And bringing more money into this county supports our law enforcement. It supports our first responders. It supports the fire department. You know, it does a lot of good things for our county. And to lose that and not have that stop, and then not know exactly what the safety upgrades are going to be, and then to find out that the federal grants are taxpayer money. So they're going to be using $25 million. They're putting in for a grant to do the safety upgrades, So I did have a mind changer on that one, because I know that was a very, a topic that had a lot of friction. We have a lot of great residents here that were fighting to not have it here. And we had some residents that were looking at the positives of it. So that was a mind changer for me.
So just to get back on the red flag, so you'd be against that, right?
Absolutely. It disappoints me when I hear sheriffs supporting the red flag, because we're all going to be constitutional bodies to represent the people. And that means you defend the Constitution. You stand up for it. And the red flag laws, they violate 7 of our constitutional amendments. 7, not 1, not 2, but 7. And if you allow things like that to happen to our beautiful Constitution that secures our rights, it doesn't give us permission, as one of our candidates said in one of the forums. It secures our rights. If we start chipping away at that, we're not going to have a republic anymore. And we've already seen it hitting us locally. So I am a strong constitutional conservative.
Thank you.
And thank you. I do not support red flag laws.
Okay, so we'll go to the sheriff on this on the same question with the former sheriff, which is the question about when was the last time you changed your opinion on a political issue? That's the first part of it, and then we've sort of evolved into the red flag thing. So you in favor or against the red flag thing? So 2 questions there.
Yes. First of all, I can't recall a political issue that I've changed my mind on. So that answers the first question. So my other candidates are uninformed about the red flag law. So many of you probably obviously know, February 14th of 2018 in the state of Florida, in Parkland, Florida, there was a mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Immediately, there was chatter about this kid's background. That created a special session, as you know, and then on March 3rd, under Governor Rick Scott's leadership, these sheriffs and the police chiefs throughout the state were mandated to put deputies and police officers in every school in the state. It didn't say, the law did not say, if you're thinking about it, if you want to, you shall do it. So immediately we rounded up another 27 deputies and put them in our public schools and our charter schools. So here's the thing about the red flag that most people are uninformed about. If we as law enforcement go to someone's house and this person is having a manic episode, he's threatening his spouse, he's threatening his children, he's threatening himself, right? We know by long-term history prior to February 14th of 2018 that we would Baker Act this person and or arrest this person under certain conditions, but more probable, Baker Act this person. In the past, prior to the state of Florida's red flag law, and you see it throughout the nation, law enforcement secures those firearms. We have an inventory, we secure them, they go back to our evidence property room temporarily. This person that is detained or arrested or at the Baker Act facility then has a risk protection order on him. So an RPO is what we call them, risk protection order. So that person will go before a judge, a circuit judge in our county, and for updates. Now that red flag, now we're going to seize those weapons. Yes, we seize them because history has told us that when that person gets out of the Baker Act facility or that person gets out of jail under a domestic violence charge, what happens? they have access to their firearms, and unfortunately, bad things happen. So we can talk about the Constitution, we can talk about good or bad, but at the end of the day, you talk to victims' families like I have, which could have been prevented prior to this RPO, risk protection order, or some call it the red flag. And there's so much drama involved in it that it bothers me, because as a 32-year law enforcement officer, I've seen those things, and I knew that had we had that ability to temporarily take those weapons, that crisis wouldn't have happened. Now, there's some liberal states throughout the nation that are all for red flag, and obviously there's some more conservative states in Florida that have different views on that. But at the end of the day, when you have the history that shows domestic violence and other shootings that have occurred, when we knew that person had some type of manic episode going on, I will stand by the red flag laws forever to protect not only Floridians, but the state of Florida, but also our Indian River County residents.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Binford for this next question, which is, can you please talk about your commitment to the Indian River Lagoon, and then what you plan to do to support it?
I've had to learn a lot about the Indian River Lagoon because so many people were saying different things about it. I found out that in Destin, Florida, they created an actual inlet there, and I think it's called Destin Harbor, and it has been working for 20 years. So I called Florida Atlantic University, and I spoke with one of the professors there, and they're running a program called Indian River Inflow. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to see if they can do the same thing with our Indian River Lagoon, so that there's flushing. And it's actually a real project. I know that somebody had mentioned earlier this year that it wasn't a real project, but it is a real project. And I know the pandemic slowed it down. And I think there's a lot of people working on the lagoon, and I totally support that 100%. And I'd like to get more involved with it and learn more about our estuaries. But it's very important because that there's a lot of money that we earn from our estuaries. People out there that make a living fishing and working on the water. It's very, very important. So I would do everything that I can to support, and I would like to be able to go out to FAU and visit the facilities and actually get a hands-on view of what they're doing. And also with, we have the other college down here working on it. What is it? We've got FAU, we got Florida Atlantic University. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a brain fart, but they're trying to grow seagrass. And I really would love to get involved in all of that as soon as this campaign is over and I'm in the county seat. I would definitely have hands-on in that and collaborate with everyone that I could to make it happen, because the lagoon is very important. We've got 156 miles of estuary that we need to take care of.
Thank you. Mr. Loar?
And thank you for the question. Look, people come to Vero Beach for our beautiful beaches. We've got 22 miles of beach. We've got 22 miles of the lagoon. That is a destination for them to come. Our hotel occupancy has been packed since the beginning of this current calendar year. We know that the dollars that the heads on bed taxes are making, that is why we have to protect that. We've already dedicated the county some years ago. While I was the sheriff, we dedicated, I believe it was 30% of our optional sales tax specifically for the lagoon. So how do we solve it? Well, through the last decade, obviously we've had the Spoonbill Marsh, we've had the Egret Marsh, and we've had the Osprey Marsh, which is basically generated to protect and receive runoff water and basically flush it out before it comes to the lagoon. The other thing is we've got a really good approach on what the county's doing to save the lagoon, because they know it's a motivator. It's almost like an enterprise fund for the lagoon. So we've already began converting from septic to sewer. Everybody knows that, particularly in the Sebastian area. We've got $1 million grant from the state of Florida last year, so we can start converting septic to sewer, which is a good thing. So we'll continue on doing that. We've got an ordinance that was passed 3 weeks ago on irrigation use, which obviously monitoring our water, also assist in runoff going to the lagoon. The county has done a lot of things to create and revitalize that lagoon. The whole idea is that the muck that's at the bottom of the lagoon is what's caused us. Now we hear about the seagrass, we hear about programs where Harbor Branch and others have attempted to replicate seagrass. And as technology and as we get more educated on this program, that's going to continue. But one of my priorities would be certainly the lagoon, because after all, that's what drives folks here for those 22 miles of lagoon and 22 miles of beach.
Thank you, Mr. Lowther.
Question again?
The question is, please talk about your commitment to the lagoon and talk about one thing you would do to support it, or talk about things you would do to support it.
And the lagoon is very near and dear and important to me. And as Mr. Loar mentioned earlier, I happened to be on the county commission back when we instituted the Spoonbill Marsh. So that's phase number one that I was definitely involved in the lagoon, and continually being involved in the lagoon is I guess out of the other two candidates sitting here, I'm still the only elected official that's sitting in a seat right now, and that happens to be the Indian River Mosquito Control District. I have been sitting on that for the last 8 years, and I can truly tell you over the last 4 years we have been working with FIT and doing a tarpon and snook program where they have been using our impoundments, where we would fill the impoundments up normally when it would be empty. They would come in and tag these tarpon, tag these snook, and then give them the opportunity to flow in and out of the lagoon to find out, number one, just what their habits are, how they're doing it. It's become a great program where now we're going to begin to add more and more impoundments with the work of the Indian River Land Trust. So I have steadily been working with the lagoon, even with the Mosquito Control District too. So and you have the state of Florida that's involved in the lagoon. You have the federal government that obviously sees the importance of that, especially with what they've done with Lake Okeechobee now, and talking about all these releases that are creating a toxic algae. So I'm a big believer in the lagoon.
Thank you. I've got just one more question, then I'll open it up to the editorial board members, and then we've got some time, so I may come back with some additional questions. But just one real simple question. I guess we start with Mr. Loar, which is, do you support the annexation in Sebastian, number one? And then do you have any concerns about it?
Absolutely. There's been a lot of turmoil between the city of Sebastian. I say a lot. Obviously, there was turmoil last year, 2 years ago, that affected some city council members over there. I think this time the city of Sebastian is trying to explain that a little better. But the big question that I have, and I know that that's on the ballot, their particular ballot, the question is, who's going to provide the infrastructure? Are we going to have this private entity that is going to come in and build homes? Are they going to pay and play? But remember, that annexation would also include, obviously, expanding the city limits of Sebastian. A lot of questions. Are they prepared for all of the infrastructure and all of the public service that they're going to need? Sebastian does not have a fire department. Are they going to work in collaboration with Indian River County to supply fire trucks and EMS response? So there's a lot of questions going through that. The voters will speak on that in November. But as it stands right now, I would have to say that I'm opposed to it as of today. Thank
you, Mr. Lowther.
A great question too, and truthfully, Larry, I can tell you, having been, and I hate going back to being on the county commission, it just happened to be the time that we were hit with all this building boom. And in 2004 to 2005, I happened to be chairman in 2005 when all these big developments caught us. And if you remember back then, we were having issues about a moratorium, not a moratorium. We developed a growth awareness committee of about 25, 30 people. They came forward with about 15 or 16 land development regulations that that the county commission instituted, which protects us and the county. As far as the annexation of Sebastian, I truly believe they have every right to expand their city limits if they want to do that. I think there has to be a better conduit and better conversation between the city of Sebastian and the city of and the county as far as what's going to be done. As Mr. Loar said, I can truly tell you in 3 or 4 of the developments we had done in 2005, the developer had set aside 3, 4, 5 acres of property for a fire station. Now, this is something that's going to have to be important in how we're going to look at it, because Sebastian doesn't have a fire station. So there's a lot of loose ends that have to be wrapped up. But I think it has to be that good discussion that you can have between the county and the city staff, between the commissioners and the city council members, and make this thing happen. It's, I don't want to say it's easy fix, but you talk about Sebastian, you have the redheaded stepchild sister, Felsmere, is coming with something even bigger. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Ms. Binford.
You know, I went to the annexation meeting and I was trying to get a feel for what was going on in Sebastian. And I really feel for the residents, because there's a split there. Some residents want it and some residents don't. The residents that want it have their arguments why they want it, and I agree with some of those. And then the residents that don't want it made some points. You know, the maps don't show everything that needs to be discussed. There's a waterway going through there somewhere, like a river from a lake going through there. Some of those residents were concerned about that. And also what I found was really hard for me to process was how to vote on an annexation when you don't even see a real plan. There's nothing in writing that's saying this is what it's being used for. So in my mind, if I was a resident, I would be concerned as, okay, we're talking about it today, but this annexation might not, you know, production of anything might not happen for several years. And will it be what we talked about today? So it kind of feels, to vote on something that you're hoping to see, it almost feels like a Pelosi bill. You know, you'll vote on it today and figure out what it's going to do tomorrow. And that is concerning. So I would need more information, because I'm for an annexation if it's going to have jobs coming in, not just more service jobs, but, you know, kind of like what Lowther was saying. You know, there's a lot of loose ends. You know, are they going to have a fire department? Are you going to have manufacturing? Are you going to have skilled trade come in? There's so much left out there unsaid that if I was a Sebastian resident, I would really be having a hard time. So I can't say yes and I can't say no, because I see the pluses and the minuses. But the biggest minus is not knowing what it's going to be used for, and if it's going to be used for in a way to benefit the city and the residents.
Thank you. Okay, anybody, just wanted to open this up to anybody else on the editorial board to see if they had any questions. Blake, Adam, Louise. Nobody has any questions? Okay, I will continue unless you put your hand up. But let's see. Next question I have would be, this is a two-part question. We'll start with you, Tom. Do you think Indian River County, just really a three-part question actually, do you think Indian River County should contribute financially to the Jimmy Graves Fields or the Three Corners? And then should the County Commission let the city of Vero Beach apply for tourist tax grants?
Well, you kind of hit 3 different questions on three different avenues there.
I did.
The first question was the Jimmy Graves Sports Complex. Glad you brought that up, because now you found something that Mr. Loar and I do disagree on. And Mrs. Binford wasn't at that candidate forum, so I don't know what her opinion is on that. And this goes back to, well, first I'm answering the question. I'm in favor of the county being involved in supporting the Graves Sports Complex. And the reason I'm in favor of that is because it's not just going to be city residents that are going to use this park and this sports complex. I truly believe this is for all the people to use, and it'll be a beneficial. It will be in the drawings of it. It will be beneficial to all concerned. The second question was the Three Corners. I truly believe that that's a city of Sebastian situation. And I'd kind of, as a city commissioner, I wouldn't want the city of Vero Beach coming to the county saying, listen, we want you to do this because we like it that way, but it's your property. So I give them the autonomy on that to do what they want to do and feel comfortable with that. The third question was the tourist development dollars. I'm sitting with the rest of the 5 commissioners that are up there right now with what their decision was on that. I think there might be another way of generating help to the city if it's something that, if you're talking about a $450,000 lifeguard station, again, it's not just city residents that hit that beach. So I think there's another avenue, another conduit that you can utilize to help the city do something like that.
Thank you. Ms. Binford?
I agree with, I'm also in favor for the Jimmy Graves. Everybody should be able to use that complex, and I agree with that, for all people to use it and for the county to be involved with that. The 3 Corners, that's a city thing. It should stay a city thing. They put a lot of work into it, and I really believe city should be with city. They've got control of that. They've worked hard on it. And that's where I stand with that. As far as the tax grants, reread that part to me again so I make sure I'm answering it as well as I can.
Sure. Should the county commission let the city of Vero Beach apply for tourist tax grants?
It depends. I'm not sure what they're applying for them to use them for, but I would say we probably have better options to seek grants, seek help. I think the tourist tax grants where money should stay and going and keeping our beaches and all those areas where they're focused right now. And our county is growing. We've got more real estate tax coming in. I think I would agree to not have the Indian River County apply for tax grants through the tourist tax.
Thank you. Mr. Loar?
Yes, sir. First of all, we know the history behind the ball field of Jimmy Graves, which unfortunately was a horrific tragedy that the sheriff's office was involved in. But one thing that is coming there is an up-to-date modern track and field area, which I agree the county should assist in, because not only is it going to bring, we can't even have a track and field statewide tournament here or regional wide tournament because our track around the football field is not up to regulations that it needs to be. So I think that is going to be an income generator, not only for the city, but for the county. I certainly agree on that. The 3 Corners, the city has done a lot of work on that. That's in the city limits. However, there still will be some services provided by the county. So the county, I would say, let the city be completely involved in that, with the understanding that there are some services that the county is going to have to provide, because there's some things in the city limits that the city cannot provide. So I would like to be a partial stakeholder in that at the table when it comes to things involving directly the county and the county commission. And finally, on the you called it a grant, Larry, but what we have is a tourist tax, which is $4 actually from every room. In fact, if you look at the last quarter, things have been booming very, very, very much, up 17.5% on our last quarterly report. We expect that to be there as well. I don't think they would be applying for grants. I think the argument that the city has is that they want a taste of our tourist development income or tax that we generate from that. But here's my thing. We spend a great percentage of that on beach renourishment, whether it be sand up and down inside of the city limits. So those dollars are coming back to the city in a way that may not be popular. It may not be a lifeguard stand. But at the end of the day, if we don't take care of our beaches, our friends from all over the country and world won't come visit Vero Beach. So I'm not in favor of them applying for any of the dollars from our tourists, because we provide so many things on that beach. County resources are over there daily, to include our fire and EMS. So there's a trade-off there, but there's probably going to be some other solutions that we can come up with in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Binford, we'll start with you on this next question. And this will be the last official question. Then I'll give you an opportunity to go around and let us know anything that we missed. So you might think ahead on that. But this question is, we'd like to know if you can please cite for us a specific example of an ethics challenge you have faced in your life, and how did you handle it?
An ethics challenge that I faced in my life. Well, the only ethics challenge that I can see that I really haven't had any. I mean, I questioned some things when I was working at a time when I was employed somewhere, and they were asking me to do something that I thought was unethical, and I stood my ground. And I don't want to mention any companies' names or supervisors or anything like that, but I received some flack on it. But I have to stick with ethics and principles, and if something is not right, I have to speak up about it. And that's really important whenever you're working for anybody. And if I don't feel comfortable with it because of the ethics involved in the principles, I will express clearly why. But that's only happened to me once in my lifetime. And I did get some flack for it, but in the end, it turned out okay. But sometimes people are used to doing things because they've done them forever. And when you step in and see, hey, this is not right, and they've been doing it like that forever, you get a little pushback. And that's pretty much where I was at that time. I stepped into a position where I was taking control and realized that they were doing things incorrectly. It wasn't ethical how they were doing it. And I spoke up. So that's one time in my life, but I haven't had to deal with that again, which is great.
Thank you. Mr. Loar, can you give us a specific example of an ethics challenge you faced in life, and how did you handle it?
Absolutely, certainly. 1989, 33 years ago, I was a young state trooper making $19,000 a year working in Martin County, working the whole Treasure Coast. And I was assigned to Martin County one Christmas Eve. And I'll never forget, a guy in a Jaguar had a flat tire, and I got out and changed the tire for him, and knew with the quasi-military upgrade training that I've had in that change the tire. It was a cold night, and shook his hand, and he put $60 in my hand. I said, "No, sir, I can't take it." And he said, "No, you're going to take it." I said, "I'm not going to take it." He says, "Well, I'm going to throw it on the ground, and you're going to pretend like you found it." And I said, No, I'm not. And he drove off, and I got in my patrol car and turned back and came back north. That's, I know, could sound a little minor, but that is the integrity that I have and that I display. Now, as a sheriff, listen, and I don't have to tell anybody. Mr. Lowther knows, as an elected official, friends that support you, friends that may have contributed to your campaign through the years, will call and say, "Hey, can I get in the front of line of this or that or that?" And many, many times I've either lost potential supporters and or donors because I'm not going to cross that line. As an elected sheriff, when you go different places, you go to conferences, you have tremendous amount of vendors in huge conference centers. And the vendors will want to wine and dine you and take you there and take you there. And I said, no, because the minute I start going to dinner with this particular vendor, he's going to want something in return. Now, have I gone to dinner with vendors? I have. And guess what? They're separate checks. And I've always made that a philosophy that I'm not going to owe you anything and then some supporters and some friends have gotten themselves in some difficult areas and had asked me as the sheriff to step in. I said, absolutely not. Now, listen, if they don't want to call me back or be my friend, that's fine. But I know I took the straight and narrow path, and that's how I'm going to continue in 47 days when I'm elected as the next county commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Lowther?
That's a great question. I think, God, the 20-something years, Larry, being in public office, I can tell you I have not had one single ethical issue that was pointed directly at me of something I've done. But I can tell you it was probably it might have been my second or third county commission meeting when I was elected, because I had run on unifying the fire department and paramedics. And you'll probably remember this. I had the Teamsters, the representative for the Teamsters, who was representing the paramedics at the time, stood up, voiced a comment directly at me, which he wasn't supposed to have done, stating that I should have no part of doing what I was doing because I have two brothers as firemen. Well, at that point in time, I turned to the county attorney. I said, well, Will, Mr. Collins, what is your response on this? He said, Commissioner Lowther, you have no issue whatsoever with this because your brothers don't answer directly to you. And that was the only issue I've had. So no.
Thank you.
No ethics.
Sounds good. Okay. So the next person that goes first, I think we're back to Mr. Loar. So, I appreciate you. We've spent an hour together today, and we've covered some ground. Is there anything that we missed, or any kind of summary that you'd like to make?
Certainly, and again, I want to thank you and your staff that's there. And I want to thank the folks that are watching this in real time or delayed. But also, I want to thank my two candidates. And I know it's not easy being a candidate, and sometimes people think it's easy to run for office. Trust me, friends, it's not easy to run for office. We're all putting ourselves out there, regardless of how we feel about different opinions, and we're going to agree to disagree from time to time, and that's just how life works. But in summary, I started my career when I was 20 years old at the Florida Highway Patrol Academy. I'm 54 years of age now. I've dedicated my entire life to public safety. I rose through the ranks to captain of the Florida Highway Patrol. I did that in 9 years. I was 29 years of age when I got promoted to captain. I was over Miami-Dade and Monroe County. I actually had an office in Marathon, but ultimately knew that I wanted to get back to Vero Beach. So I got back to Vero Beach some 23 and a half years ago, and I truly love it. As a public servant years ago, former Sheriff Roy Raymond came to me and he says, "You'd be a great sheriff. I want to support you." Well, the rest is history. I won in 2008, I won in 2012, and I won in 2016. At the end of my term in 16, after 32 years of service, and the nationwide perception of law enforcement was beginning to change, I realized that, having two cell phones and being on call from December 1st of 1991 as a young corporal in Fort Lauderdale, and being on call for maybe 28 years with two telephones ringing at all hours and being responsible for my job and my community, I knew that after 32, it was time for me to take a break, which I did. I took about a 6 or 7 month break before I filed to run for county commissioner. It's been a passion of mine. I am the only candidate that knows the recency and the relevancy of what's going on in this county. I admire Mr. Lowther for being a one-term county commissioner, and that's fine. But you have to have somebody with the energy that isn't going to be on call 24/7, that knows the issues, knows the relative and recent issues that this county has faced, knows how to run a $55 million budget with 544 employees with a variety of things going on from end of 2008 to 2021, from hurricanes to additions to the facility to leading an agency through a recession that we've already talked about, through all types of scenarios you can imagine, good and bad, losing deputies in the line of duty. All of these things accumulate and give me the position as the best candidate. Not only that, as the best candidate, I will be literally the cheapest candidate because I'm not eligible for another pension and I'm not eligible for their health care. So those are thousands of dollars that me, being the cheapest, literally the cheapest candidate, has to offer the residents. I'm a proven leader. There's no doubt about that. You didn't find any hiccups in my 12 years as your county sheriff. We did a fantastic job. We maintain our retention process, our retaining process. We had the deputy salaries increased, which we don't have the flight that we had in the past without working together, not only with our county commissioners, our county administrator, our budget director, and the like. All of those things coincide with obviously me getting the fire union endorsement this particular year, which I was very grateful, very thankful for them. I knew their 87-page union contract in and out. I knew the 14 articles that they deal with to continue with that. That's why I got their support, simply put. Overwhelming support from friends and supporters throughout the community. We've raised a tremendous amount of dollars, really without even trying. We're at $91,000 now. And fact is, I didn't go out begging for money. These are friends that knew my reputation, that knew my pattern as the sheriff. And I'm just overwhelmed with it. I'm really overwhelmed with it. And I look forward to August 23rd. When anyone can get out, know that early voting begins on the 13th of August. Absentee ballots will be going out around July 14th. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. We're running a successful campaign. My two opponents are very cordial. You don't have this infighting that you've seen in other campaigns in the past. I agreed with Mr. Lowther when we started this thing that we would keep it clean. And that's my commitment, to continue to keep it clean. Work hard, and in 47 days, I will be elected as your next county commissioner. I'm Deryl Loar. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lowther?
I appreciate, first of all, Larry, you all having us and having the opportunity of sitting down and kind of, definitely in a comfortable position to be able to talk to you all and let people know just where we are. First and foremost, I do want to set aside a little bit of difference between myself and my other two candidates, which I appreciate them actually following my lead on a lot of the questions that you all asked. That means I'm a leader to them already in their eyes. I appreciate that. And more importantly, is that being a fourth generation Indian River County resident, I think it's important, these people that are living here. But I really want to stress that my campaign is run on resume and reputation. And I think it speaks for itself as far as a resume. And this is like a business interview. I'm interviewing for a job with you all. And if you look at my resume, Mr. Loar states that he did run the sheriff's budget and ran the sheriff's department for 12 years. He did. But I can truly tell you, as a sitting commissioner from 2002 to 2006, I ran the sheriff's budget. Not only did I run the sheriff's budget, I ran the tax collector's budget, the supervisor elections budget, clerk of court's budget, property appraiser's budget, and the county's budget. But more importantly, I want to run on my resume and my background of being a business owner. Of the two candidates against me, neither one of them understand business by owning it. I've been in the funeral business for 44 years. I've owned my own funeral home for 25 years, built the first crematory in Indian River County, which against two funeral homes that have been here for a long time was a tough chore. And I think if you talk about recency and relevancy, I'm still an elected official. We work closely with the county with our impoundments. We work with the Indian River Land Trust and purchasing property that becomes environmentally sensitive land. I have my ear to the county, and I can truly tell you I'm the only candidate that on day one doesn't have to learn this job. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a certified county commissioner. I took my 40-hour course when I became a county commissioner. And I think more importantly, I didn't move to my district to run. I have lived in my district all my life. Indian River County is near and dear to me. My kids are here. My grandkids are here. And I truly hope that if you want someone that has the intestinal fortitude, more importantly, can work with the other commissioners. A little bit different than being a sheriff where you're your boss and everyone has to listen to what you want done. You have to be able to get along with the other four commissioners and be able to maintain a great form and make that happen. So I truly hope that you take in consideration a business owner, number one, someone that has a vested interest in Indian River County. And if you go back to the industrial park, I can truly tell you the last time a big industrial company came in with CVS, because when I was on the commission, we did deal with trying to bring companies in. That's why they're here. And I guess to piggyback on what Mr. Loar talked about with hurricanes and dealing with hurricanes, ladies and gentlemen, I was here with all three hurricanes, Francis, Jean, Wilma, in Indian River County at that time when I was serving on the county commission, was one of the few commissions in the state of Florida after all three of these hurricanes that were in the black. So if that doesn't dictate leadership, I don't know what does. But more important, I can tell you, you look around town, go around town, the new county administration complex was done on my watch. The IG Center was done on my watch. The Brackett Library was done on my watch. So I'm truly talking about someone that has history, has the recency and relevancy, and has the resume, but more importantly, the reputation. My business, I've handled over 10,000 of families that trust me with their most prized possession. That's why I want to give that back to the county and be your next county commissioner. So vote Thomas S. Lowther, August 23rd. Thank you.
Stop.
Thank you, Ms. Binford.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joann Binford, and I would like to be your next county commissioner. I've been living in Indian River County for close to 20 years. I raised two of my children here, and they attended Vero Beach High School. My business background includes over 35 years of corporate and government experience in electrical distribution, semiconductors, and prototyping, manufacturing, and dealing with budgets and federal grants. And yes, I did own a business a long time ago with my ex-husband. So I do have the background of running a business. I completed a 16-year career working right here for the school district of Indian River County. I'm ready to serve you, the residents of Indian River County. And let me bring this to your attention. Our candidates have done nothing but talk about their past, all about themselves, barely talking about the residents, the working class. One candidate mentioned that this is a retirement community and people come here to retire. I felt like that was not addressing the issue that we have here with skilled labor, skilled trade, and helping the middle class and the working class rise. There is a housing problem. I promise to be fiscally responsible with your tax dollars. One of our candidates earned about $52,000 in donations and already spent $46K on marketing. That is not even necessary. And then we have our other candidate who is supposed to be a constitutional conservative and is trying to snow you, making you believe that the red flag laws is a constitutional law. That is scary because this is a constitutional oath that we will be taking to represent you. We are here to represent you. And we are here to defend the Constitution of the United States as well as the Florida Constitution. So there's a lot of and that's what I'm going to do. There's a lot of talk here, making it sound really good. But, business owners, habitat, affordable housing, that is all good. But to discuss us like we're a retirement community and we better get used to it. Well, we have families that are here, families that are growing up, kids that are being raised, kids that are going to school, schools that are taking away shop classes and trade school training. That's what I'm here for. I am the working class. I know what it's like to live on a $46,000 a year income and live here in this beautiful county. It is so difficult. We've got the sheriff who says he's still going to receive some kind of retirement that it feeds into. It's not going to be a separate retirement, but he's still adding to his retirement. He is a retired person. He is not working, living off of an income that he has to survive on like you and I. He's not living off a $46,000 income. And you've got a business owner who's had a business. Wow, great. It's a family business that he grew up with. He didn't have to go out and start out and work just like you and I do. We are the working class, and I'm here for you. I'm here to talk about real issues on how to raise our working class here in Indian River County. Most of the time I hear them talking about the fire department and fire rescues. They do need an income raise, just like the rest of us do. But they're not just leaving because of pay. They're leaving because of opportunities, of the incentives that they are not getting from our county and they're getting at other counties. That needs to be looked at. That needs to be discussed regarding union negotiations. There's a lot here that isn't being said. There's more being said to make it sound great on their behalf. But when it comes right down to the people, we need to start talking about different things. We need to start talking about trade schools, trade labor, places that we bringing businesses here, not driving them away. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to run for the county commission to bring those subjects up and to act on them. And I love this county. I'm going to do everything I can to keep this county beautiful. But we need to remember the working class in this county. And they don't feel represented. And I can tell you this because I am knocking on doors. I didn't spend $4,000 to buy my way in. I'm knocking on doors. I am not running because I grew up here and everybody knows my name. I'm not running on that to win. Everybody knows me. Everybody's my friend. You know, everybody has a loyalty to me. I'm not doing that. I'm running. I'm out there, sweat and tears, sweating it. I've got my campaign help. It is hard work, and you're right. So remember this. I am a constitutional conservative, and I'm going to protect the Constitution as well and your liberties, and I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight hard to try to bring up the working class here in Indian River County, because if we don't do that, we are going to have housing issues infinitely. Thank you. Vote Joann Binford, JoannBinford.com.
Thanks to all of you. And we really appreciate the time you took this morning. And also, as you pointed out, for volunteering to run a campaign. We know it's not easy, but an essential part of our representative democracy. To the audience, continue to visit TCPalm.com elections for your latest election information. You can see all sorts of videos, our recommendations, and other news coverage. So thanks again for joining us this morning, and we'll catch you next time.